not hyperbole. The stakes could not be higher. And the contrast, the choices you have, could not be more stark. I should probably just say, ditto to everything Russ said and leave and go over and watch a vote. I'm just going to say a few things. Number one, Donald Trump and Ron Johnson, they are cut from the same political, ideological cloth. No, think about this. This is I'm not looking for you to applaud. I'm looking for you to really focus so you can talk to the friends of yours who may be on the fence or haven't voted yet. Ladies and gentlemen, they're both climate deniers. Johnson says the jury is still out on climate change. Talk about being out. Whoa. Talk about being out of it. Went on to say that the last 2 summers haven't really gotten warmer. Where in the heck has he been? Up in Alaska, the Arctic Circle has even got warmer up there. And Donald Trump said, and I quote, "The concept of global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make U.S. manufacturing non-competitive." It'd be funny if he wasn't serious. I wonder if these guys are going to acknowledge there's such a thing as gravity before this is over. Ron Johnson voted, and I'm not talking about his character, I'm just talking about his politics. They never go after another man or woman's character. No, I'm serious. He's a decent guy. But here's the deal. Just look at his judgment and what he voted for. Ron Johnson has voted for a budget already in the Senate that cuts taxes for millionaires and raises taxes on middle class folks in the United States. This is not Joe Biden judgment. These are independent tax analysis. Donald Trump says regarding taxes, "I didn't pay any taxes. That makes me smart." No, but think about what it says for a president to say that. Donald Trump says he rooted for the housing crisis because, quote, "that is good business." Ron Johnson ran against the Recovery Act that helped folks buy homes for the first time, helped folks stay in their home, reduced energy costs, and helped wounded warriors refinance their homes. Donald Trump says Mexicans are murderers and rapists. I don't want to take out of context, but Ron Johnson talking about charter schools referred to inner city kids as idiot inner city kids. Please, I'm really not looking for you to boo or cheer. I just want you to focus, man. No. I really want you to focus more than you even have. Donald Trump laid out a $9.5 trillion tax cut, greatly benefiting the top 1%, which is either going to do one of two things by every outside group looking at it. It's going to either raise the deficit by $9 trillion over 10 years, or require a cut of 40% across the board in every government program, including Social Security and Medicare. That's a fact. Ron Johnson has already voted, though, for a budget in the Republican minority in the Senate. Thank God was a minority because it passed the House, which voucherizes Medicare, means you get less, which privatizes Social Security, cuts tuition tax credits, cuts Pell Grants for 8 million students in working class families, cuts elementary and high school education by $2.7 billion a year, kicks 157,000 kids out of early education through Head Start. As a matter of fact, neither one of them think early education matters, giving people an opportunity. You realize that a kid coming out of a middle or upper middle income household or wealthy household will go to school having heard 1 million more words than a child coming out of a home below $50,000 in income? Talk about a fair shake. These guys don't get it. Donald Trump says, this is what he said now, and he's repeated it. Wages for American workers are too high. That's a quote. Ron Johnson seems to agree. This guy not only doesn't want to raise the minimum wage, he doesn't think there should be a federal minimum wage. Look, this really is. I understand that Senator Johnson introduced Mr. Trump at an event they jointly did, and he referred to it as the Ronald and Donald show. Well, folks, given a choice, I'll take Ronald McDonald. Where I come from, if you keep an audience standing more than 15 minutes in a hard service, you lose all their votes for already standing that long. I can go on. I haven't even gotten into foreign policy. Trump actually said, imagine what this, all kidding aside now, think of what this does to embolden Putin with the lies he's telling people in his home of Russia and around the world about the United States. Think of what confidence and help it gives to ISIS and others when he says in a debate with the United States military moving on Mosul, the center of the caliphate set up by ISIS. He says that the reason the coalition is moving after all this planning is to make Hillary Clinton look strong. I'm supposedly an expert on foreign policy and national intelligence matters. I promise you, that's the propaganda that is being sold in Syria and in Iraq right now. That this is really about the United States really only going after ISIS because we want to make it politically more palatable. Ladies and gentlemen, when he was asked whether or not he agreed that the Russians and Putin were hacking the United States through cyber espionage, he said that the 17 United States intelligence agencies that have come out and said on the record that they know it was Putin and the Russians. He says that he wants to be commander-in-chief. He says to the world that our national intelligence agencies don't know what they're talking about. All kidding aside, think of the damage that does to us internationally. Think how that plays into the hands of radicals around the world. Putin is a strong leader who didn't invade Ukraine, in case you haven't noticed. That's what he says. A nuclear Japan and Saudi Arabia would be just fine. I was down I've traveled over 1,150,000 miles for the president because when I speak, every world leader knows I speak for the president because of the relationship. Not because it's all reflective power, it's the president. And I have there's not a major world leader I haven't known in the last 35 years just because of my job as chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. I was down in Melbourne, obviously in Australia, meeting with the Prime Minister who stood for re-election again and ended up with a smaller majority and was worried about what we were going to be doing relative to China in the region. While I was there, I got a phone call from an old friend, an old acquaintance, the former defense minister of Latvia in the Baltic states. I had to come to the Baltic states right away. I had to meet with the leaders of Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania, and then make an address, nationwide address to all three of their constituents. Why? Because Donald Trump said he wasn't sure he would support them in NATO against a Russian invasion if they hadn't paid their debt, paid their dues. Ladies and gentlemen, the damage being done is already manifest. This man is totally, thoroughly, as a consequence of what he doesn't know, what he thinks he knows, and the way he's demonstrated his character. He is thoroughly unprepared and unqualified to be the commander-in-chief of the United States of America. It's not on a deadly serious note, can you imagine any president in American history assuming that technology existed? doing what Donald Trump did, getting up at 3:30 in the morning and tweeting vitriol about a woman's body, her body shape, and her weight. What does that say about the character of this man who wants to, I mean, all kidding aside, pick the worst president in American history? Can you fathom any president of the United States doing something like that? Ladies and gentlemen, these guys are from the same policy perspective. They seem to be carbon copies of each other, not in character in terms of their positions. I guess they're expecting this nation to be sieged by collective amnesia. These are the same trickle-down policies that generated the most severe recession in American history, short of a recession. Everything that's happened has eviscerated the middle class, those struggling, the working poor. Folks, they called me back in Washington, as Russ will tell you, middle-class Joe. That's not meant as a compliment. That means I'm not sophisticated. And let me tell you what I'm sophisticated about. I know who built America. I know why we're the nation we are. And it's because of the middle class that has not only generated economic growth for the wealthy and given the poor way up, but it has been the social fabric that's held this nation together in times of crisis, unlike any other democracy in the world. You know, there used to be a bargain. There used to be a basic bargain in America. And the basic bargain was, if you contributed to the success of the enterprise you belonged to, you got to share in the profit. You got to share in the benefits. That bargain doesn't exist anymore. Study done by a professor and published in the Harvard Business Journal points out that 444 companies who've been in the Fortune 500 for the last 10 years, from 2003 to be precise to 2013, they made $2.7 trillion. That's a good thing. They spent 54% of it buying back their own stock because that's how they get paid. They spent 37% of it for their investors, that is their stockholders and dividends, leaving 9% for everything from expansion, research, development, salaries. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not happened before since the 20s in the United States of America. It's generated such concern that 5 of the country's top 20 CEOs asked to see me in my home, the Vice President's home, including a guy named Richard Branson who flew from England to be at the meeting. Now, here's the deal. You know what they want me to do? I'm going to do it. Lead an effort to change the corporate culture in America. They understand. They understand. They understand that this concentration of wealth, corporate or individual, is the greatest threat to economic growth in the world. This is not Joe Biden or progressive Joe Biden or Russ Feingold. This is the IMF, the International Monetary Fund report. This is the fund report, the report coming out of Standard & Poor's. The more concentration of wealth, the less likely for the economy to grow overall. These guys don't get it. They don't get it at all. And the bargain has been broken.